Okay, so hello everyone, and thanks for joining us to this event, Data Popcorn. So I'm trying to talk about how we can schedule automating the refreshing of the semantic model in using the Power Automate and updating our semantic model by some different triggers. So I want to talk about that one. But before I'm jumping through the solution, how you can create those things, let's review some of the basic things about how we can refresh our semantic models, what are the limitations, and how we can set that, and why we need Power Automate to have more option, and how we can make that more smart when we want to update that. So in this case, I created 3 reports. All of them are connected to some files on SharePoint. And normally, if you want to update a semantic model when you publish it to Power BI service, you can click on this refresh now, and that will start, as you can see here, that will be a start to refresh the model. And you can see this date and time will change when that update is finished. At the moment is 4:22, and that changed to 7:32. So I can hit that again and refresh the model again. Even I can stop that here as well. So that's updated as well. What else I can do? I can schedule the refresh. I can click on this button here, and then under the refresh, I can select my time zone. I'm living in Australia, Sydney, Australia, so I can select that one. Click on, and I can say weekly or daily. And if I select daily, then I can add time slot here. But there are some limitations here. So let me this one here. So if you have a Power BI, if your license for your workspace is a pro license, means you are using a shared capacity, then you are limited to only a schedule daily. So you can just set 8 time to schedule the refresh for your semantic model. After that, you can't add more than 8. But if you want to hit that refresh button, there is no limitation. You can always manually hit that refresh button and refresh that one. But if you want to schedule that one, if your workspace is with the pro license, means you are using the shared capacity, then you are limited to 8 schedule daily. But if you have a premium capacity or fabric capacity or PPU, then that limitation will be waived, and you can schedule up to 48 schedule per day in the semantic model setting. So here, at the moment, I'm using a fabric capacity, so I can add, let me select finance, and then here, I can add 48 of this day time and select between 2 to 2:30 a.m., p.m., and 48 of them. I can select them and set that there. But when I want to select that to be on 2:15, I don't have that option here. So it's limited to 2 o'clock or 2:30 or 3 o'clock to 3:30. So an a.m. and p.m. So I can't set something at the 2:10, 2:30, 2:25, because sometimes you need to do that. Sometimes you are working in a company, your data set or database behind that semantic model will be refreshed on 2:10, and you want to refresh that right after that on 2:30. Sometimes it's very sensitive. You want to have a live data on your dashboard. In many cases, that can happen. So in this one, you can use Power Automate to automate your refresh. Before I jump to Power Automate and select and create that model, I need to talk about this API, because when you're using a Power Automate and we want to run that, start that refresh using the Power Automate, we will using this API behind the scene. And this API, again, following all of these limitations here. So if that's a shared capacity, you can just run it 8 times. So that 8 times, which I showed you here, that's included even here if you run the API there. So you can read this documentation here and find out how you can run this API. But if you don't want to run the API, you want to use the Power Automate, you can create a, let me just create a instant one and just run date model, and then using the manual trigger. And I don't like this new designer, so I will change it to old one, switch without saving. And then here I can search for Power BI. And then there is an item here for refresh a dataset. Still, they call it dataset here, but that's semantic model. So that's something need to be updated. So when you select that, then there are two items here. One of them is workspace. The other one is dataset. So if you open the workspace, then you can see the list of all workspaces in that tenant. So if I click on the workspace here, you can see all of these lists are available here. And my workspace is demo update. And I want to start updating this finance dataset. So behind the scene, what we are doing when we select these items, we are adding this dataset ID and the workspace ID here for this API. So this is running that API. So if I click on this pick code, then you can see group ID means the workspace ID. Dataset ID is that ID for that dataset. So here you can see the dataset ID, DA here, and that's exactly something that's added here. So that's it. So let's save it. And now we can test it. So let me bring this here. And if my screen works correctly, yeah. So let me bring it back to workspace view to show you that will be updated. Okay, that's good. Make it here. So at the moment it's 7:32, finance one. Then I can start test manually. Click on test, continue, refresh now, and then that should be started to be refreshed, as you can see here. 7:32 change to 7:38. Then I can change it. I can change it and say, look, update the other one. So here, update the Northwind one. So I can click on this, save, and test it. And that started here. So when you're running that this way, there are some differences behind the scenes. So if I go to refresh history, you can see that previously we run that manually on demand, but now is with API. So when you're running this trigger or this action and this action in Power Automate, that's that API behind the scene. Even if I use this API, so I run this one, run this API, that's exactly the same. So that's exactly the same. Okay, so now we created this one. We can change this trigger to another trigger. So we can define many triggers. So here, let me select it in and schedule that one. Then I can use this recurrence trigger to set something for that 2:15, 2:10, something like that one. So you can select again time zone here. By default, should be time zone of your tenant, but I would select that to be Sydney, Australia. And then I can say every minute, start and update my data. So let me check which data set, because it's very important to see how long does it take. If you said 1 minute, maybe it takes more than 1 minute to update that. Now it takes a few seconds to update that, so it should be okay. Save it. And then when you save it, then you don't need to test it, because every minute that should be started. So you can see here, it is already started, because every single minute that will start and update their data set. So at the moment it's done, 13 seconds ago. So if you wait a few seconds, then you can see another one will be added here, and that will be started. So you can set every 15 minutes, every 10 minutes, every 14 minutes update that, or rather than selecting that based on those 8 or those limited items in Power BI service, you can define many different items here. So let's wait for this one to become 49, 50. So next time, I think in a few seconds, we can see that will be a start to running this again. And refresh, yeah, that's done. And you can see now there are 4 items here that is start. But now we can run this one. We can using this action to update and refresh our data set but we have too many different triggers to use them in the different scenarios. For example, I created this one. I created this model. Let me full screen this one and added something for Microsoft Form, which I created the form. I embedded in the Microsoft Teams. Let me bring my Teams here. So in here, I added different ways. I designed different ways to update my, semantic model. I created something like this at work. Actually, I create something like this, and then I send the name of that semantic model, and that will automatically start refreshing that. Rather than you open in Power BI, going to the workspace, finding the report, and hit that. I just during the meeting or something, I find that something needs to be refreshed. I just send it to here, done. That behind the scene that will start to run that one. You can run it as a pool here to define the pool here, and then every time you select that, click on that one, you can define the trigger in Power Automate to run that. But in this just for this presentation, I create the Power Microsoft Form, which I embed that into this channel here in Teams, and I want to give this option, this option to user to select any of those names and click on that, and that will be a start. For example, if they click on this Contoso, the Contoso one will be a start to update it. If they select finance, that will be updated. So let me add it here and bring this one here and open this one. So before that, let's review what I added here. I added the form ID, which I embedded in that Microsoft Team channel. And then I added the form ID here and the response ID, which is coming from the previous item here. And then I added a switch to say, okay, if it's finance, then that data set ID, which I just want to switch between the items they selected. So if you select finance, then I want to convert that into the data set ID. So let me find my Power BI to show you that here. If I click on this data set, you can see after the data set in the address, there is a data set ID. So you can use that and add it here. So then I define another one for Northwind and another one for Contoso. And then I mentioned that, okay, because they are limited to select only one, I select the workspace, but rather than selecting a name, I define that as an output of these three. So one of them, two of them will be blank, and one of them will return this ID. So let's test it. Begin back, bring my teams here, and then add it here, and then Power BI. So now I want to start and add. Let me bring Power BI here. So here, I want to start and adding and running this one. So the finance one, I want to start and test it. So at the moment it's 7:38. If I click submit, let's see when that will be. So yeah, it's started here. So as you can see, it's updated. Let me select Contoso. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Make this one smaller. Okay, so Contoso one submit, and then the Contoso one will be started to be updated. Yes, it's started. Then I can start the Northwind and start that one. So in other scenarios, you can run another API to scan your tenant, find out all the workspaces and all the report names, and then will bring the return of that will be a JSON file. Out of that JSON file, you can even create a dynamic form to define the name of workspace, define the name of the reports, and then click on that, refresh that one. So sometimes you don't have access to your laptop to refresh that. So on phone, you can easily just select that, click it, and that will be started. So refresh your semantic model behind the scene. There are many triggers in Power Automate. So you can design that based on the scenario for you, which works for yourself, for you or your company. But yeah, is there any question or comments? Silence. Okay. So it seems there's no There's no comment.
There's no comments on chat. No questions for now.
Yeah. Nice for endorsers to be able to trigger. This could be nice for endorsers to be able to trigger. Yeah, you can do that. You can set the limitation who can run this. In Power Automate, you can define many ways to limit that. Who is submitted, for example, this form? Is that someone to run that one or any other different type of, security layer on that one? When you refresh a data set using Power Automate, if it fails, the refresh, you don't get notified. How do you solve this one? That's a good question, actually, because that won't return that here in the Power Automate with that action. You can add another action, add the output of that one and check it. If it's done, then run it again. But if you want to do something like that, you can run that API, and that API will return its success or not success. And if you can add the if after that to check that if it's a success, that goes to the loop again. If it's not, then stop that one and send a message, send the email, and notify you guys, owner of that semantic model, to check what is the issue behind the scene. But it's possible, yeah. Is this something that you build on top of schedule refresh? Yeah, so you can define the schedule refresh. I just wanted to add some, just show that with the Power Automate, you can create and develop more smart way to start that running refresh. Julian, if that was the question and I answered that correctly. Okay, so 3 questions there. I hope I answered all of them. If there is any other questions, more than happy to answer them.
One more question from Mehres. You can specify if it's incremental or full refresh.
It's something you define behind the semantic model. If you define that it's incremental refresh in there, so that will be incremental refresh. So it's like hitting this button. So whatever you design behind the scene, that will be same as that. Pretty hard sometimes. Okay, thank you.
If you got any questions, just write it on our chat window. Maybe we will try to give you proper answers. And Vahid?
Just for that incremental or full refresh, if you scan, I'm not sure, I can't remember, I can't recall it fully, but if you have admin access and you scan the tenant in the options return for that semantic model, I remember there was an item to show that what is the setting for that semantic model, but I can't recall it clearly, to be honest. But just send me a message on LinkedIn, and we check and return to that one.